Microphones. Sounded like it played. Excellent. Hello and welcome to NoCB, a grand strategy podcast. This is for the week of the 26th of May, 2021. This is our post-PDXCon wrap-up episode. Rose is traveling right now, so she won't be joining us, but I am here this week. I am your host, Liana, and I'm here with the rest of our awesome panel, including Lambert.
Hello there.
And including Father Loris.
Hello.
The names are actually in the right place on the template, so I did it right. Okay.
Hey.
Yeah. This is going to be kind of our PDXCon wrap-up episode. If you have not listened to it yet, our live episode from PDXCon, where unfortunately some Roman time travelers hit my house with an EMP in the middle of the stream. So it ended up only being like 30 minutes long, and we want to focus on really digging deep into what we learned at the convention this weekend, now that we have more time. Specifically, Crusader Kings 3, the Royal Court, and Victoria 3 are going to be our main topics today. All the other assorted dev diaries and stuff we will catch up with next week when we kind of get back to our usual schedule. But overall, what did you guys think of the convention? First online PDXCon.
Well, obviously, it's not as good as in person.
Yeah.
I mean, it was hard to get too excited for it, apart from the game announcements, you know. But
kind of all I really watched.
Yeah,
I did. I will admit though, I did watch the them doing the Hearts of Iron challenge, like trying to do the thing with the Spanish anarchisty people. I don't like Hearts of Iron. I didn't understand fucking anything with it, but I mean, it was right before the announcement, so I was like, yeah, I'll watch it anyway.
Yeah.
I watched some panels, mostly about Vicky and stuff.
Yeah. I was just talking to Loris before the show that, like, if it were in person, I would have been, like, dashing around some sort of, like, rustic building in Stockholm, trying to get to every panel, and like because it was online, I was just like, all right, I watched the announcements. I'd already interviewed Martin, I'd already interviewed the CK3 team. I was like, I'm just gonna probably just chill and sleep for the rest of the weekend.
I think it was hard to get energized about it, right?
Definitely the announcement was the big thing though. It was what everyone came to see. The rest of it, other than there was one panel that was just it was so good, it was perfect, and that was the NoCB cast panel.
Yeah. That was the best one.
All the rest of them in our shadow. Really,
they tried to take us down, and it didn't even work. Like, it just made us stronger. We have the edited version of that without the EMP in the middle. Is up on like SoundCloud and stuff now. That you can check out. It was like I spent the whole week ahead of time getting those previews ready, getting the mega thread ready, getting everything ready for the podcast. By the time we were done streaming on Friday night, my time, it was just like, I think that's PDXCon for me this year. I'll catch up with the VODs on YouTube later. I hope they get those panels up, because I do really want to watch them.
You can watch them back on Twitch, but it involves a lot of like clicking through.
I
lots of stuff,
recorded them all.
Oh, okay.
So I could. Well, I recorded the ones I cared about.
Upload
Paradox,
them and monetize them.
My suggestion, Paradox, would be to have somebody in charge next time of getting them on YouTube after they air. Because I think a lot of us wanted to watch them, on our own time, and posting them throughout the next week just doesn't maintain the same level of excitement. But let's get right into Crusader Kings 3 to start with. The Royal Court expansion was announced. Highlights, if you didn't hear about it, are that they're adding full 3D throne rooms, which I think is in one of these. Very work in progress is the name of this, or extremely work in progress is the name of this. Where you can hold court. There will be scenes of things happening at your court that you can interact with. They're adding a new grandeur system, which is basically how opulent your court is, or you'll be expected to have a more opulent court. The larger realm is, and the higher your rank is. You'll be able to hire inspired people. They're bringing back artifacts. You can have swords visually on your character, reflect your culture of where it was made. Yeah, I'm hoping. You see, there's like this trim down at the bottom here. I'm hoping that is gonna like reflect the actual house coat of arms.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah,
that'd be really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's going to be a Western style one, which is, I'm assuming, what this is. This looks very Western European to me. And there's also going to be a Mediterranean one, a Middle Eastern one, and an Indian one at launch.
And I'm sure we'll get more in future updates as well.
Yeah. When I asked them about that, they said they wouldn't rule it out, which, I mean, come on. If you release if you release like a Mongol flavor pack and I don't get my giant gear with all kinds of cool con
big
stuff.
Khan's phone. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I mean, they can't exactly sell like face packs. I was like, oh, you've got a bunch of Norse noses in this DLC. They can't exactly do that anymore.
No. I'd go in the character creator and make one myself. Yeah.
So definitely they're gonna have to find some way of doing like little flavor packs, and this kind of seems like the kind of perfect thing.
Yeah. Quartz, clothes, weapons. Yeah.
This is one concern I've got about it, is when we're inevitably going to add more cultures and flavor, when you've got the Venetians, or the Chinese or Mongols, all that stuff, they're going to have to make a whole bespoke court, right? It's a lot of work to add onto every single flavor pack. Down the line.
Yeah, I don't know that I would need one for every flavor pack, but like obviously when they add China, like they need to have a Chinese one, and then I'd love to see one for the Mongols too. Even though they said this is mainly going to be for feudal and clan rulers, like I feel like the Great Khan needs to have the Great Khan's court, right? So
yeah.
There's one thing that worries me in this, and it's down at the bottom. It says, unlike normal events, this type of event is non-interruptive. And it kind of just brings to mind the non-interruptive events that you have in Imperator. #save Imperator. Basically, you have this little notification down the bottom right, or wherever it's going to be in CK3, and it's kind of missable, and you've got your whole kind of new content kind of hidden away in this optional event area. And I just know it's like it was a bad idea in Imperator, and I think it's probably going to be a bad idea here. But I can also see the other side of it, because if it's opening up an entirely new screen with 3D models, which are probably going to be kind of impactful on, potato machines, those kind of people probably wouldn't want to be opening these events. It's a kind of a catch-22, really.
Yeah, it's hard, because I do think, for sure, Imperator made them way too easy to ignore, not just in terms of seeing them, but in terms of the effects are so minor that you almost just don't ever need to pay attention to them.
Oh, I disagree with that very much.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. No, there's some like you really want any kind of like research event, a minor addendum, just spending a tiny bit of political influence for some stability. It's really impactful. Like, I would prefer the ability to say, no, I want all of these to be pop-up events, because a lot of them are really important, and the default option is nothing happens, whereas I will always choose the other option.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't like that they're so hidden away.
I guess I'm so used to just cruising at low stability and never having anything bad happen in Imperator.
See, that's your problem. You need these events so you're not at low stability.
Yeah. Anyway,
it's a nice concept though. It's certainly left field. Like you'd never guess this was going to be announced for sure.
Yeah. This is the one announcement I don't think anybody guessed in any way. Like I looked at dozens and dozens of predictions for what the first CK3 expansion was. And like the closest anyone got was, I think, Rose's poll, where one of the options she gave is that they would do something unexpected that nobody thought of
That's
yet.
a cheap answer. That's so cheap.
That's the closest anybody got.
Expect the unexpected. It's basically as useless as that, right?
Well, you can fight about it when she gets back.
She gave everyone an out. That's not a real suggestion.
I'm just saying it's the closest. I'm not saying it was prophetic.
Which means I think no one was close.
I think if anyone even suggested like, oh, we're going to add basically the Sims medieval courts to CK3, you'd be called out as being an idiot. No, it's just not going to happen.
Probably.
I mean, overall, I like this direction. I like making it more of an RPG and less of a map game. I like anything that will allow me to interact more with my kingdom on a more personal level. If someday I can, ride around my castle grounds on a horse, mount&blade style, I would be all for that. I don't know if they'll go that far with it, but yeah.
It's so left field that I'm really just looking forward to how it's going to work in the end. I think the proof is going to be in the pudding. I'm not exceptionally looking forward to it because this could either be really, really good and really interesting, or it could be really annoying. And it really is just going to be a case of we're going to find out down the line if this is going to be good or not.
Well, I also think it's definitely going to fill a niche for tall play that doesn't exist yet. Ideally, we'll have to see how it works out. But like, I recently played I fired up CK3 after this announcement, and I started as the Duke of Bescanon, which is basically like Upper Burgundy in Lotharingia in 867. And I was like, all right, I'm not going to conquer anything. I'm just going to see how much I can build up this specific duchy, before the end date, and see how that works. And the one problem I constantly ran into is there just is not enough stuff, period, to spend all of my money on. Yeah. It's like, I'd get war declared on me and I'd hire like 3 gigantic stacks of mercenaries and yeet them into outer space, and then all right, now we're good, we're fine. So yeah, the fact that we're actually going to have a way to spend that money on things that will give us other benefits. I think they said like food, servants, clothes, and what was the other one? There's a couple. Oh yeah, food, clothing, servants, and lodgings. There's going to be different levels of those that you can build up at your court. Will increase your grandeur. Even to the point that your peasants will start wearing like low nobility clothing if you're rich enough, which is pretty funny.
That's pretty great.
Yeah, it's kind of based, spreading the wealth around. Yeah,
I did quite like how it's unique to kings and emperors. That's pretty good. Interesting of those. I do hope that like vassal kings don't get them. That's one thing I would hope for. Yeah, because I never liked the idea of like being a vassal king anyway, it's something that CK3 should discourage from you,
I mean, it's like, I think there's some cases where it makes sense, like the kings of Bohemia under the Holy Roman Empire were, they ruled as kings in their own right for the most part, like, the way CK3 models, like, if you start up your own empire, and then eventually you're just handing out kingdoms as an administrative decision, that doesn't feel quite right.
Yeah.
Like those should be governors.
In reality, those would be sort of like tributaries. Like if you're the king of kings, you're probably just nominal. Give me money and tell me that I'm your overlord, and we'll leave you be, kind of thing.
We just need imperial government mechanics so I can appoint governors to de jure quote unquote kingdoms instead of having to hand them out to a hereditary strongman dynasty or whatever.
I think there just needs to be more incentive for kings to want to be independent and be more prideful, really.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
As it currently stands, if you're the king of France, it's probably advantageous for a little while to be the vassal of a Holy Roman Empire and just take a lot of land inside the Holy Roman Empire. And then there's not really much of incentive to go independent again.
Right.
But really, if you're a king, you're supposed to be going, I'm the king, I'm the boss, right? I don't want to be underneath no one because I'm a king, right? That's what you want. But CK3 doesn't make the player feel like there's an incentive to be prideful like that.
I will say, I've sort of kind of gone off CK3 a bit. I don't really find it maybe as fun as I did on release. So I'm glad that there's something coming. It's around about the right time.
Yeah.
If it was releasing now, it'd be the perfect time to get me like, oh, there's new stuff. I'll go play it again. Because Northern Lords didn't really do it for me.
Oh, I had plenty of fun with Northern Lords, and I'm not one of these people who particularly like Vikings either. You know, I'm more of like Christian history and stuff like that. But
coming from someone who likes chapels, I'd never guessed that. It's like, no, you like chapels, but you don't like chapels. Like, I don't want to go raid the chapel. You want to build the chapel.
Exactly. Yeah. The architecture, roomy architecture.
So I was thinking, wait, Vikings also like chapels very much.
Yeah,
just like desecrating them.
They're great.
Bastards.
Yeah, great source of revenue. I still enjoy CK3 quite a bit. Like, I got sucked into it again over the weekend. I think some of my disillusionment with it, like before Northern Lords came out, just came from the fact that like I had already played over 2,000 hours of Crusader Kings 2.
Yeah.
And you can't have that first time again. You can't have that Crusader Kings honeymoon period again.
Yeah,
so it's like there was some diminishing returns going from CK2 to CK3 if you played as much CK2 as I had. It wasn't quite different enough that it and that being said, it is still I did like calculation. It is still the Paradox game I have played the most relative to when it came out. And it's by a pretty significant margin. So
I have to do the math on that for me.
Yeah, like if you looked at like the first year EU4 was out or the first year CK2 was out, they might win as far as how much I played in the first year. But looking at it now, total hours played divided by days since the game came out, CK3 is in the lead by quite a bit for me.
For me, it would probably end up being Imperator.
That would be my assumption.
Yeah. I'm almost at 2,000 hours in that game now.
Wow.
1,000 hours a year.
Yeah, I mean,
so about
CK2 is
3 hours a day. Is that? I don't know.
CK2 is the only game I've ever broken 2,000 hours in. I never even broke 2,000 hours in EU4, which is my second place.
Oh, EU4 I got 5,000.
Yeah,
hold on. I did look at my Steam profile.
I always feel like I have no life, and then I look at other people in the Paradox community, and it's like, I'm a pretty well balanced person. Yeah.
I think Crusader Kings is my all-time most played game. Like, so Crusader Kings 2.
Crusader Kings 2.
I think it only just beat Civilization 4. Not long ago, actually. Yeah,
the only game that might beat Crusader Kings 2 for me is World of Warcraft, because I played it starting with like the open beta in 2004. So I don't even want to know how many total hours I have in World of Warcraft, but Crusader Kings 2 is probably a strong second place.
I have only 3 games on my Steam library that have over 1,000 hours. EU4, 5,500. Imperator is on 1,900, and Stellaris is on 1,100. Coming in 4th place with 800 is Crusader Kings 2. So my top 4 are all Paradox games.
Mine's CK2, EU4, Civ 4, and then Hearts of Iron 4. Generally, mostly 4s, apart from Crusader Kings, obviously.
Yeah, mine is my CK2.
I only play a lot of even number games. That's it.
Mine is
the other one is Look, I've got Crusader Kings 2, Europa Universalis 4, EU4, Civ 4, Hearts of Iron 4, Warhammer 2, Team Fortress 2, Victoria 2. Those are my top games.
Yeah, mine is
even numbers only.
Yeah, mine are CK2, and then EU4, and then Stellaris, and then Total War Rome 2, actually, is after
But then
that.
again, like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't judge a game like of the quality just by the playtime, right? I think a lot of people seem to do that, especially if you're looking at cinemas. I would say, for example, Portal was by far the best game in the orange box, right? I don't know if you're old enough. Well, we're all old.
Oh, yeah.
Some of chat maybe not old enough to
Yeah.
remember the orange box.
Right, it was a box, right, and they filled it with oranges, and they
Yeah.
shoved
Yeah,
it through
yeah.
your neck.
So it used
and
to be
squeezed
that
in your face, and you had a good time.
if you
Hallucinated
wanted...
that you were playing some games. It was great.
Yeah, it used to be that if you wanted a video game, you would go to a store, like where you buy clothes and stuff, and it would come in a box with a shiny circle in it, and you put the shiny circle in your computer, and that's how you would install the game.
And don't forget, because, let's be fair, gamers, we are not the smartest bunch of grapes on the tree. Grapes don't come on trees, but we're gamers. We don't know this.
Yeah.
Said stores were called things like Game.
Yeah.
Game and GameStop.
And GameStop.
Yeah. The one that was big.
Game
knockoff
Station, I think.
GameSpot.
GameSpot too, yeah.
I grew up in we had Babbage's where I grew up. So
Babbage's.
if you're from certain parts of the US, you might remember Babbage's.
Oh man.
Yeah. They got
Babbage
bought by
kind of
games.
sounds like a surname that I should remember for some reason. Like some historical figure was called Babbage.
Yeah.
It was a Babbage. Babbage
then-
made the first computing machine.
Yeah.
There you go.
EB Games was another one that got bought by GameStop. Yeah.
Finally, like Vicky's coming out, I can, just go mad with my Victorian knowledge now.
I
You may have your classical history, Lambert, but with its stupid old hats and their classical architecture. But I've got my Victorian history of their stupid hats
Hey,
and
I'm
their
getting
classical
into it too, man.
architecture.
I'm getting into it too.
I bought yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, a couple other things. They're bringing back minor titles. Seneschal,
Yay.
Antiquarian, Food Taster.
Swan Keeper,
Or
Keeper of the Swan.
Keeper of the Swans. I wonder if some of these are going to be regional, because I don't know how many swans you're going to be keeping in the Sahara.
Yeah.
Court
Keeper of
Jester.
the Camels.
And these are more than just a +5 opinion badge that you stick on someone now. They will all actually do something.
I want
Taster
to have
was- The Food Taster did something. He often died.
Oftentimes, yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, in CK2, these were all just badges that you stuck on people to
Yeah,
give
yeah.
them +5 opinion.
Oh no,
I
in,
want-
in CK2 they often died as well.
Oh, yeah. Everybody dies in CK2.
I'm very hopeful from this, is that the Keeper of the Swans has a sort of Hot Fuzz style B plot where they're trying to
Yes.
find the swan. That's what I want.
Yeah. Languages. Your character can learn different languages now, which reduces the penalty for other cultures if you speak their language. The event they showed had a character learning Latin. So
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I'm interested how that's if you can learn if that gives
Bitch, I
you a
read my own
church
Bible.
opinion bonus. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And then of course
increase your clergy, opinion and stuff.
the dynamic culture system. The actual cultures having ethos, traditions, and pillars is going to be free, but being able to form hybrid and divergent cultures is going to be part of the DLC. They clarified for me. You could make Turco-Persian or Egypto-Norse or whatever. They also showed Aquitanian could be split off from Occitan. The advantage
we'd been asking for from Imperator for a while is these hybrid cultures like Greco-Roman, for example. It's interesting that they're doing it in CK3.
Yeah.
It seems like they're kind of just, the religion system we got is really powerful, but we need to use it a bit more. How about we put it on culture as well?
Yeah,
Kind of feels that way.
I'm
okay with it, though.
I like it. I like it.
I love it. There's one main thing I love it for is that Turks, once you conquer Persia, can stop wearing bloody Mongol clothes. Because it's really weird conquering Byzantium and all your pops are dressed like Mongolians for some reason.
Which you'll be able to pick. That's one of your pillars. Is what graphic sets you use. You'll be able to visually customize your culture along with mechanically.
That's brilliant.
I did ask.
Bring back the Lorica Segmentata. That's what I want as my cultural pillar.
So I did ask. What is the advantage of hybridizing if divergence gives you more freedom? And their response to that was that if you create a divergent culture, you're restricted in some ways by the parent culture that you're breaking off from. Whereas if you create a hybrid culture, you can pick from all of the options that either of the two cultures started with, which allows you to create some combinations you would not be able to get otherwise.
Yeah.
So like things that would normally be locked out, you can't have this and this. Well, if you make a hybrid culture and they had A and these guys had B, you can put them together even if you wouldn't normally be able to. So
I assume they're working with current melting pot stuff in. I imagine English is kind of like
yeah.
system.
The historical melting pots are still going to be in, they said, and like the Scandinavian divergence.
Oh, Scandinavian divergence pisses me off when I play CK2. I fucking hate it.
Oh, you
But
just
no,
gotta
I don't. I don't want to be bloody Swedish. I'm a Norse
one wants to be
fella that's
Swedish.
lived in Britain my entire life. I'm Norse, thank you kindly.
You shouldn't get the splitting of it unless you still have land in Sweden, though.
Oh yeah, no. One of my vassals took a single province.
Oh, that doesn't seem like that should count. Like if
Yeah, I mean,
if the
I
capital
thought
is
that
not
too.
in Scandinavia, you should not be asked to switch. Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to actually having like Anglo-Norse instead in that
Oh,
sort
yeah.
of situation.
Yeah, no,
Like
that'd be fine.
Norse,
That'd be really
yeah.
good,
Yeah, that'll be really cool.
It's like, oh, you didn't take over 50% of the provinces in Scandinavia, so everyone's now either Danish or Norwegian or Swedish. Nah, mate, Norse, innit?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
and you can now split off and make like Icelandic and Faroese as well. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I just hope like Norman and stuff gets worked into this system rather
Yeah,
than just
Right,
that would be
right.
pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because this is part of a free patch, isn't it? It's not like
So
it's not
the
part of a DLC.
ethos, traditions, and pillars are part of the free patch. Being able to, you yourself being able to create hybrid and divergent cultures is part of the DLC. So the AI will still do it whether you have the DLC or not, and the historical events will still fire whether you have the DLC or not. But for you to personally create your own new culture, you have to have the DLC.
Right. Okay. That's
so-
an interesting, weird way of doing it.
Yeah.
It's kind of okay. I mean, I can't imagine the AI is going to do it extensively anyway.
They said there'd be a game rule too, where you can like adjust how often the AI will create hybrid and divergent cultures. I asked them about when you run this offline, how much of the map still has the original cultures from game start by the end, and they said more than half of the map generally still is the original cultures from game start. It's not like everything is going to be a hybrid culture or a divergent culture if you just let the AI to their own devices. You can change the game rules to make that happen if you want it to, but yeah, it's not going to be like ubiquitous. The other interesting thing they said is that when you create a divergent culture, you have to pick a different ethos from your parent culture. Like, if they were bellicose, you can't also be bellicose. You would have to pick stoic, inventive, spiritual, or courtly. So that'll be interesting. But, like, if you're splitting off from a very warlike culture, you have to decide why you're splitting off and what your new focus is going to be.
Because these idiots like bloody swords, and we, in this perfect cultural harmony, recognize the superiority of the fucking spear. There's a split. We cannot be having this kind of divergence in our war camps. You take your swords and you go over there, and we'll be here with our spears, and we'll conquer you, because we're better than you. You fools.
Chat, is anybody here excited at all for Victoria 3? Anybody? Show of hands?
Nah.
Okay, we'll just skip it. We'll just skip it. We can just end the show there. We don't really need to talk about Victoria.
We'll talk
3.
about Imperator news. Oh wait.
Yeah.
So
So I want to talk a bit about the Steam engine because
okay.
Hearts of Iron is adding Steam engines, right?
Yes.
So let's talk about that a bit.
We will catch up on all the other Dev Diaries next week. By the way, we're not forgetting that they exist. Oh, where did they actually have the picture?
Oh, actually, just quickly speaking of
Oh, here
Hearts
it
of
was.
Iron, though, been confirmed that Arheo is moved on to Hearts of Iron,
Interesting. Okay.
which I feel is
Yeah.
a tremendous waste of his talent. But I mean, best of luck to him anyway.
I mean, I'm looking forward to what he puts into Hearts of Iron, though. I mean, like
Pop system, mate, innit?
pop system, yes.
Hearts of Iron. I mean, Hearts of Iron does already model population as a
No,
number on a
no.
local scale, but yeah, here's an early look at what trains are going to look like in Victoria 3. Yeah, what were you going to say about steam engines?
Yeah, choo-choo trains, just like them.
Oh, okay. All right. I thought you had more of a point there.
No. So I'm adding it to Hearts of Iron, and you've got them in Victoria too. And the dynamic in Hearts of Iron, so I assume we're going to be dynamic in Victoria too, right? You'll get these choo trains going along the map, little unit models going around.
Yeah, I mean,
a lot of beauty and flavor to the map, I reckon.
The map I saw, you could see the rails. I didn't actually see trains moving on them, but this image here indicates to me that you actually probably will see trains moving along the rails, and
I
hopefully even see those trains change in appearance as your technology progresses.
That's what I'm hoping. Like, there's a tier of how excited I am for these choo-choo trains, right? One, if it's just a generic choo-choo train, I'm still pretty happy, right? Two, if you get like different technology levels to your choo-choo trains, you start with your normal boilers, or then you go to your hybrids, double piston action, very high class choo-choo trains at the end, and top tier, if they add different gauges, my goodness, I'll just be over the moon, right? If you get the narrow gauges in Japan and Russia and early narrow gauge railways in the UK, I'll be ecstatic, right? But
yeah,
I'm thinking it's around tier 2. I don't think we'll have the gauges, but I think you'll get the near.
Yeah, we'll have to see. See, I want them to add like late game technology for like the rocket trains. The US and the US and the UK both tried to build rocket.
If I zoom in.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, they've got to have
tier 2.
They've got to have the choo-choo sounds. Yeah, come
tier
on.
Tier 2.5, I would say, for the choo-choo noise.
0 out of 10 if they don't have choo-choo noises in Victoria 3. Come on. Yeah.
I mean, we already know that CK3 has location-based contextual noises, so I can't imagine that there wouldn't be the case here.
Yeah, come on. Well, let's start with this. They did 2 panels at PDXCon, one on the art of Victoria and one on Vikinomics. So we'll start with the art, because we actually got to see more of the map. We actually got to see some parts of the map I didn't even get to see in my preview. Overall, I really like the art direction they're going with.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's less vibrant than EU4, but it's still very colorful in a kind of... I don't know, like, I feel like they struck a really good balance between making it feel a little bit more muted, but not, like, too muted.
Mm-hmm.
I do feel that Imperator is still prettier, especially when it comes to mountains.
Imperator's map is still the best looking map they've ever made.
Yeah.
Got some Haitian Revolution here, which actually happens in the EU4 time period. But
I do really love the verticality of it, though. Like, you can really see it in that picture of Peru. Like, the mountains actually look like they're really tall, and, I'm just imagining how we're going to be able to see, in none of these images that I've seen, have I seen the difference between the provinces and where I would imagine, the troops would stand. Like, especially in that the one of Machu Picchu there. Like, where are your troops standing in this image? If you are, moving troops through this valley, where do they walk? Where do they stand? Are we surely we're going to have to be able to see troops on the map as we're moving them around, right?
I mean, this is all still very work in progress, of course. I've even seen some people speculate that you might be able to move troops around within a province, which I don't think is necessarily going to be the case. I don't know. Maybe they'll surprise me.
That honestly is kind of where I'm leaning.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're gonna go full Total War with it, where you can just move wherever.
I'm thinking that's kind of likely, yeah, because it's sort of. I don't know, because some battles of this era, they did stretch from village to village. Obviously not as big as from city to city like what it would be to actually have them stretched out here, but the battles were taking place over, you know, quite a few miles or kilometers of space.
Uh-huh.
Um, it's just I'm trying to think of like if I'm looking at the map and I'm thinking of how a Paradox game works with, you know, having its units and you move a unit into a province and then if another unit moves into that province, then they fight. I just can't see where that happens. It's like if you look at the image of Paris as well, I can't see where that happens.
Yeah. No, I
I
definitely
think
see what you're saying there. Yeah.
I think it might just be more abstract. I guess you have X number of troops in that region. We assume we're going to fight when we're in that region.
The other thing that tells me that this is a work in progress is it says the strategic region, the Andes, has 100% market access. I doubt that. I doubt there's
You know what
enough
tells me?
infrastructure to
Early
get
footage under development
Yeah.
is a pretty big
Yeah.
tell as well.
This is newer and this looks better than the preview that I saw, by the way. So those of you that read my mega thread where I said, "Oh, it looks better than Hearts of Iron, but it looks worse than Imperator and Crusader Kings." This is more up to date. This is more detailed than what I saw right here. I still don't think it looks as good as Imperator, but yeah, it's probably better than CK3, at least in terms of
like
level of detail.
It's grainy. I think that's what I'm seeing here is it's very grainy.
There does seem
You're
to be
looking at
like
the
almost
grass or
like a film grain on it. Yeah, I'm wondering
Yeah.
if that's something we could turn off.
See, I've never been that fussed about these sort of maps. The sort of thing that interests me more than anything is not so much for terrain and stuff. It's for moving parts and making the map feel alive more than anything.
yeah.
Stuff like birds and obviously trains, cars,
Right.
boats. You know, like even I would say like for Rome Total War 1 map is very interesting. It looks ugly as sin, but there's like people moving around, moving stuff around. Tell you what, the Three Kingdoms Total War map, where you have different resources moving around. So say if you've got a jade producing province, you see people moving their carts full of jade goods away from a town. It's beautiful, adds a little bit of life to it. I'm far more interested in that aspect than I am about the mountains and trees and if a town looks pretty or not. You know,
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Hey, we got raided by a murdered Viking.
Oh,
Thank you
hello.
very much. Welcome,
Hello,
raiders.
Vikings. Yeah. The other
We're totally playing Vicky 3. This is completely accurate.
Yeah, this is real. I can click on these buttons here. Yeah, this is where the actual game. No, I'm not gonna unpause it. We're not ready yet. The other interesting thing is because what they told me about how urbanization is going to work is it's going to be anytime you build a building, the urbanization in that state goes up, and every time it hits 100, it will generate an urban center and then go back to 0. So what I'm curious is, all of these little towns that we see on the map, are there scripted locations with a scripted name for like, okay, when this state hits X urbanization, create historical town with this name right where it was historically? Or is that going to be dynamic in some way? And like places that didn't have a lot of urbanization historically, how are they going to decide where the towns go and what they're called? Is there just like a master name list somewhere? You know, if I want to, I don't know, just completely out of character, like make Colorado the industrial heart of the United States. Are they going to pull from like towns that were founded much later? Like, are we going to get like Broomfield as like a major urban center in the 1800s? Like, I don't know.
Well, I hope these things develop naturally, like and around specific resources. So, you know, speaking of like South Wales and even, you know, where you come from, Lambert, like the north of England, these places were very rural until coal was discovered, and then they rapidly industrialized and people moved there. So I hope you get to see that sort of dynamic growth. Also, I want to see more smokestacks. Like, I can't see much in the way of smokestacks.
Yeah. There's got to be just like a fog, like a smog over the industrial
Honestly,
area.
it's probably just because we're looking at Paris. If we were looking at maybe London, you probably wouldn't be able to see any buildings through the fog.
It's 1836 too, so it's still early industrial revolution. So
fast forward a few decades, and then we'll see it. Oh, we won't see it. In fact, the opposite.
that's another tier level here. I for this sort of thing. If it's smokestacks, that's mid tier. But tier 5, stuff I would not expect, but I would like in this sort of thing is if we get to have what's it called, Hoffenization. Who's a guy who like recreated all of Paris?
Oh,
his name now.
Yeah.
Your man,
Chat,
My
help us
man.
out. Help us out here.
Monsieur Mr. Builderman.
Yeah.
Mr. Man, yeah,
It was Dr. Eiffel, I think.
Monsieur Builder.
Dr.
I think he
Pierre
was called.
Eiffel, yeah.
Builder de Triomphe.
Yeah.
Anyway, it begins with a H anyway, I think. But he completely redesigned Paris. I don't think that's going in the game, but it'd be cool.
He didn't do a very good fucking job of it, though, didn't he?
Well,
there's a bunch of one-way streets and a roundabout you can never escape from.
Well, that was the design was basically. It was after Napoleon III got in power, is so that the French can build barricades on narrow streets anymore.
Yeah.
So built it on a fort. So you had very long, long promenades.
Look, we've had too many bloody Paris revolutions.
Yeah,
no more.
Well, the other thing is that I saw some people asking about on Reddit is trenches, and there was a technology in the military tree called trench warfare. So for me, that will add another letter grade if they actually visually represent trenches on the map in the late game. I want to see that. Yeah.
That'd be cool. And also, tier 8, right? Definitely not going to be in the game. Be brilliant. After World War I want to see poppy fields. That would be amazing.
That would be really cool. That would be really cool.
One thing that I have heard, Steinwallen did an interview with Martin and Mikhail, and he asked them about warfare, and whether warfare would kill pops.
Yeah.
And obviously, we're not talking about warfare at the moment. Blah blah blah. Standard answer. But Martin did say something incredibly interesting, and that is that they were looking into the possibility of having war wounded, and that some of the pops that you send as soldiers that would die instead become dependents.
Yes, yeah. I watched that interview.
Interesting.
That would be really interesting. I mean, obviously, I don't think you could call this a Victoria game if you didn't have to pull your soldiers from your actual workforce. Like that, just
you'd like it wouldn't be.
I mean, that's like to conquer a tiny 2-state minor. I was like, oh yeah, mobilize. Why not?
Yeah.
I realized.
I also want to see I would love to see No Man's Land just get blasted to shit too. Like I want to see that on the map. Like if I've been artillery barraging the same province for months and months, it should just be like a hellhole.
Look, if we can see actual damage and piles of smoke rising up if I'm sieging a city. Oh, Paris is going to look so fucked. It's going to be
I'm skeptical that there'll be much focus on World War II because this time period is a lot.
Well, I hope there's none.
World War One, sorry. Yeah. I reckon that's probably going to be a DLC done in the future in a similar way that they did with French Revolution, because most people are playing at the start of the game, and that's where we're going to be the main impressions. That's going to be the main focus of the core gameplay, is the start and mid, and then they'll focus on the end when in a DLC. I bet that's my assumption.
Diplomatic Plays kind of says that no, they're not, because Diplomatic Plays seem like the kind of thing that was directly inspired by some foolish Serbian shooting a dude.
Yeah.
And the Austrians have sent a diplomatic play to Serbia for war reparations or indemnities for shooting the bloody Archduke. Russia has joined in on Serbia's side because fuck you, leave them alone. Germany has alliance with Austria and doesn't like Russia, so he joins in and says, no, leave my friend alone. Oh, France is blah, 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 and England's and etc., etc. It's bloody it's Diplomatic Plays, man. It's modeled in real life. It's amazing. I love it so much.
Well, and they even have that mobilization mechanic where you can start mobilizing early, but it'll also increase your threat and increase the chances that more people will get involved on the other side. But then, if you don't mobilize at all and it does end up being a war, suddenly you're like, oh shit, we're not ready to fight a war right now.
I mean, Russia was one of us that, basically being mobilized for war basically before the war was officially a war, right? So that was a thing.
This is some UI screenshots of the interest groups. I know what some of these mean. So the light, or the kind of teal blue one up here, is the main ideology of an interest group. I don't know what this one is. This is militarist. This is pacifist, and I think this is like something learning related. And then
The church being pacifist. Oh, how times have changed.
Oh no, that's
Well,
the
time.
That's the intelligentsia. The Catholics are militarists.
Oh, really? Okay, fair enough. Sorry, the stream is slightly delayed, so you were hovering over Catholics for me and saying about pacifism. But yeah, intelligentsia definitely look like pacifists there.
There's I believe I know some of these ideologies too. That one's abolitionist.
They'll change, I assume, right?
They can. They're not going to change all the time. This usually won't change, from what I was told. Their main ideology won't change, but these red ones can due to certain events. So yeah, that's abolitionist. I think that's nationalist. This one I believe is called traditionalist. This one's definitely individualist. And then yeah, militarist. Atheist is down there. Anti, I don't know what this one's called, but it's crown breaking, so they're probably anti-monarchist.
Republican.
And then these cards in the middle are going to be bonuses that activate for your entire nation once their loyalty gets up to a certain level. So it's very similar to how loyal institutions in EU4 give you bonuses.
Now, I did have a concern seeing these things because I'm a huge fan of people having party names. I like the idea of Tories and Conservatives and Liberals and Whigs and that being dynamic and all that sort of thing. But I think Martin did a Q&A.
He did.
On Discord, and people were asking about that.
Now the
PDXCon
PDXCon
said, this is something we're going to be looking for.
Yeah, now the PDXCon is over and we've had a chance to take in the reactions to the announcement. I just want to say that we've heard your concerns about political parties. We're actively discussing the role they should play. I want to highlight that. Should play in the politics system, not might play. And more details about this will be forthcoming. It sounds like they're going to be in, to me, is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense for all nations to have them, but the nations that did have them historically should probably have them. That's kind of how I'm looking at it.
And you want to have that basically to work within that interest groups, because you have some places where, for example, two political parties are very dominant. America and the UK, obviously, like the Liberals and Tories, and then in America the Democrats. And who was that at the time? Not the Democrats. It was after the Civil War. What was before the Civil War?
Before the Civil War, you had the
Whigs and the Democrats?
Might have been Whigs and Democrats. I'm trying to remember. 19th century American history is totally not my area. I need to bring DM Schmeier from Lore Sworn on here, because that's totally his thing.
Yeah.
It might have been the Whigs and the Democrats at that point. But no, I feel like the Whigs were already gone by then.
And then I want to see, it was like the Popularists, who were like farmer labor in America, that popped up around that period, but they weren't very
Federalists and Democratic Republicans, Valor Gain says. That's right.
That's it.
And then the Democratic Republicans basically became what we now call the
Yeah, I just hope you get to see different parties with different meshing with a different interest groups.
Yeah,
I would like to see stuff like like labor and industrialists.
Yeah, well, by the end of this time period, you had like Teddy Roosevelt's Bull Moose Party, which I'd love to.
Right?
Yeah, they weren't around long, but there was
but they were influential, right?
Yeah.
They were in Vicky's system. Those would be very influential, but they would not be part of a political establishment or a part of a party, right?
Right. Yeah, and then there was a progressive party at one point too.
I hope they had like voting systems too. Because like Vicky 2 had first past the post, the Jefferson method and stuff.
Yeah, they didn't quite work the way that they should have, but they had something called the Jefferson method in the game. Yeah. This is a look at a state screen here. As you can see, they have no infrastructure, so they have no access to the market. They're being called an isolated state region. So basically, the pops here only have access to what's being produced locally. and they can't sell their goods anywhere but here, which is something you're going to want to fix quickly. Yeah, peasants we talked about are they're subsistence farmers. They don't generate a lot of goods. They don't generate a lot of taxes. So
well, I imagine this will work really well in, especially when you come from a maritime nation, right?
Yeah.
We do have trade routes now, or shipping lines.
Yeah, they're calling them shipping lanes, yeah.
We don't know the details of it, but I imagine these isolated states will work like that. So if you shut off a shipping lane from, for example, Germany's colonies, and you have an embargo on Germany, I imagine all these like African colonies that the Germans may have at this period will be shut off from Germany proper. Or likewise, if you manage to beat the Royal Navy, Britain not having access to the jewel in the crown of the empire, probably is going to be
embargoes. Embargoes are going to be.
As France got shat on. The Royal Navy ain't no joke.
No, exactly.
No, embargoes.
It's like, I'm winning. Their number is red and mine is green, but I'm the only one losing ships.
Well, in Vicky, you didn't get that. Say if you embargoed in Vicky, you got war exhaustion, right? And it was bad, but
it didn't really affect your market. Yeah.
Yeah, you were still importing stuff from India for some reason.
Yeah.
Don't know how you were doing it, but you were apparently. But
reopen the Silk Road, innit?
Yeah, you march all those porcelain jars across Russia. You're also at war with, but it's fine.
I also think it's funny that like the icon for struggling is bread and water. Impoverished, you get a little piece of lettuce on there, and then secure is if you can get tea, then you're
that's it. That's you've made it.
Yeah.
During the Vikinomics panel, it was said that because of the British obsession with tea, 30% of our economy was something like the taxes on tea alone.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can tax specific goods.
Insane.
Yeah, there was a point in American history when whiskey taxes made up a huge part of our federal revenue.
And then you went and made it illegal.
Yeah. Yeah, we had a whole rebellion about whiskey. Like whiskey's always been a hot button issue for most of American history.
Pretty much sustains a very large proportion of the Scottish economy right now, actually.
Yeah. So... Although thanks to the tariffs that were put in place under the previous regime, Scotch is like very, very expensive in the U.S. now, and I'm not thrilled about it. I'm going to become a radical because they put tariffs in place on whiskey.
Your needs are not being fulfilled at the moment.
These clouds I got to see in the preview we saw, it's pretty cool. They like drift across the land at the higher zoom levels, and you can see the shadows.
I don't like them.
They obscure too much. They should be A, more transparent, or B, being able to turn them off.
Also, the fact that they're 2D as fuck. I mean, look at the one
they look
over
like
Anatolia. It looks like just a piece of scrappy paper.
They do look more 3D when they're actually moving. They look they have a little bit more depth when they're actually...
I would still say just get rid.
Yeah.
They're not aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah. I think they're too much. I agree. It's just because you can't see. If you're on that zoom level, there's clouds obscuring your vision. That's not very good UI design, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't even think that counts as UI, though, does it? I mean, the cloud isn't a UI.
Yeah, it's map design.
It's pure
graphics. Bad graphics design, I guess.
The other thing that's interesting is I don't see anything that looks like an impassable zone, like we have in Imperator and CK3 now, and even EU4 to a lesser extent. It looks like the province boundaries just kind of like run right up against each other, rather than having like the Apennines block your movement.
Yeah,
I'm assuming that's not going to be final.
If your armies can move freely within a province, you won't need impassable to be visible. You'll just not be able to move your troops there.
True. If that turns out to be right, yeah.
They need to have some sort of impassable system.
Yeah.
Purely because of the Opium War, right? You don't want to be going to...
Oh, no, it would still be impassable. You just wouldn't need to... You would need to show it visibly. You just wouldn't be able to move your troops there.
Right.
Yeah.
You should be able to intuit it that it's impassable because, let's be honest, it's a big fuck off mountain.
Yeah.
Yep.
Although then fighting in Anatolia would be like, everything's impassable.
I mean, that's kind of what fighting in Anatolia is like.
True.
Yeah.
It's the reason why no one invades.
Have you ever tried to invade Turkey in Hearts of Iron 4? It generally doesn't go well.
I thought you were just going to end it there. Have you ever tried to invade Turkey? Full stop.
I mean,
Yes,
I
many
play
times.
Imperative, and that's a very rich region. I'll take it.
True. Yeah. But have you tried to invade Asia Minor from the east in Imperator? Because that is also still very difficult.
Yeah. Getting through them Cilician gates is a pain in the day.
Yeah. So, every pop, every leader, and the leader of every nation and every interest group, and also every pop is going to be represented by a 3D character model.
Yeah.
They're going to have clothing that is accurate to their culture and their class, which is super awesome. I love this. Love it, absolutely.
Again, tiers again.
Uh-huh.
We're on tier 2 at the moment. This is great. Wonderful, unique stuff. The big concern I was had when was the class, right? If it changes per class. But the fact it does, that you're going to have say if you're playing Japan, you have a peasant who's still wearing traditional clothing and somebody else being more regal. Great. But I hope it changes. Fashion history changed throughout time. So I want to see boater hats come in towards the turn of the century when it started becoming fashionable. Also I want, especially in the Far East, Japan thinking especially, and China to a lesser extent, Western clothing became the in thing. To see oh, look how modern I am. I'm wearing Western clothing, but that never filtered down to the lower classes, even up until the 1940s. People were still wearing kimonos and stuff. If you're a farmer, brilliant, fantastic. I also just want to, the change of a ruler. I want to have Emperor Meiji to be wearing a Western dress.
Right.
She made a very strong point about doing that.
Hats
very important. Right, Lambert, you know a lot about this too, obviously, because it's ingrained in every single British person. Hats are very class-based, right? In Britain, it is a key component of our class system. Working class people better have flat caps, right? That's a given. Upper class people better have top hats, and middle class people better have bowler hats. That is just the given in Britain. I don't know if that's unique to Britain or not, but that better be a thing anyway. I'd be very disappointed otherwise.
Yeah.
I will point out though that, putting all of that aside, tier 10, so we're skipping some tiers. Is if Loic pulls through and gets me in the game.
Yeah.
Tier 10. That's it.
Tier 10, yeah. In the game.
Who would you be? What interest group would you be the
make
leader?
me a lord.
Oh, okay.
No.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd actually.
So you're the leader of the landed gentry in the
something like that, like an interest group. Oh, I'd love it.
Yeah. I believe they have hinted that Northumbria will be releasable in.
Oh, sick! I'm from there.
Yeah, so you could be the leader of releasable
Northumbria.
Releasable Northumbria. Yeah, because that'd mean you've got all the coal, So, what are the Southerners gonna do?
I was thinking, in pie in the sky, if it actually comes off, I was thinking, some random interest group. I could be. A portrait of me could be the leader of an interest group because they don't have to be historically accurate people, right?
Yeah,
I could just have a Lord Lambert, leader of the landowners of Northumbria area.
That's very aspirational. The landowners.
I mean, I didn't want too much. I just wanted to be in the front.
Yeah,
I deserve this. I was a month off.
I imagine there will be a certain level of detail at launch, and they will add a lot more later with flavor packs because that's what it seems like they're doing with CK3. So we might have to wait a couple more years for all of our hats to make it in, but here's the map. The countries you see that have borders but are not colored in are the decentralized states.
It's a lot more than I was expecting.
So they have. I'm especially surprised that they've said this isn't final. I think they've said on the forums that Somalia is going to be playable. It currently isn't. But yeah, like the fact that all of the Congo is decentralized, like this late in when I think Kikongo at least was working with the Portuguese towards becoming more of a centralized state.
Yeah.
I do like it. Looks like
Converted
we
to
have the Orange Free State and Transvaal here in South Africa,
Yep.
so you'll be able to play as them, which is really cool. You can see this is you can barely read it, but this is the British East India Company here in Bengal. So these are all subjects of Britain. The East India Company directly controls the Bengal Delta, and then these are all the princely states.
I'm a huge fan of the fact that the East India Company owns India. That's a huge
And the
improvement.
Hudson's Bay Company owns most of Canada too. I don't think they showed that at the panel.
That's brilliant.
I'll
That's
be really
fantastic.
curious to see how playing as a colonial company works.
Yeah.
Like, because they would have a completely different government structure, and like, can I take over the entire world as a corporation? And like,
Well, yeah. I mean, and how would you?
Yeah.
What would happen? Like Britain passes, what was it, the Government of India Act after the Sepoy Rebellion.
Mhm.
What would you do then? You just say no.
Yeah.
Like what? Just carry on.
I have just noticed something because I've been playing a bit of Vicky 2 lately. In Indochina there is called Siam. In Vicky 2 it's called the Rang Kingdom.
Yeah. Well, and like,
Ragnathathang.
I think I think also they imported a lot of borders directly from Vicky 2 that I expect are going to change. We still have like the Sykes-Picot borders between Egypt and the Ottomans, which I don't like that at all.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really change borders mid-game, though. I think it just
Yeah,
doesn't work
that's
in the
true.
engine, and it'll look. I can't think of a good
Yeah,
way of working around it. So you're just kind of stuck with Sykes-Picot because,
Egypt
well,
and
the Ottomans.
Yeah, Egypt and Tripoli. Maybe Tripoli is like the same color as the Ottomans, but Egypt being its own color, a lot of people have been speculating about that because they
Well,
were
yeah, it makes sense.
they were tributaries of the Ottomans still at this point, but they were kind of de facto independent. So I'm curious to see what the different subject relationships
And
are.
the Oriental Crisis will happen
That's
very
it.
soon.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, the Oriental Crisis happens 4 years into
Right.
Victoria's time
Very,
period?
very
And you can see
quickly.
that in see Great Qing there, Tibet is the same color as Great Qing, so they do seemingly color in your vassals the same color as yourself. Same
Norway
with
is
Finland
playable
for
by the
Russia
way.
and India.
There was somebody on Reddit that was arguing with me about Norway being playable. Believe me, I saw it. They are playable. They're the same color as Sweden. The reason Sweden's name is written way over here is because you can actually barely see it. But yes, Norway is on the map and is a playable personal union partner under Sweden. Martin has confirmed this on the forums.
Makes sense.
I'm also hoping that they'll do something a little different. Like, all of the Dutch East Indies currently are just labeled as Netherlands. I would prefer if they made that. I mean, they did. They had nationalized the VOC at this point.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
I feel like the Dutch East Indies should be its own tag rather than just being unincorporated territory of the Netherlands.
No, I don't. No, I don't think so. I think it
Really?
should be because at this point, the VOC had basically folded into the Dutch.
Yeah.
You know, it was basically an imperial administration at this point.
Yeah.
It's an interesting question, chat.
like
Do we think the
Mirage.
inclusion of days of the week means anything? Don't think any other Paradox game has that. Yeah, because a lot of things happen weekly. Because the game is being split into 4 ticks per day, having things happen on a week means that there's going to be, 28 ticks, which is very similar to a month in CK3 and EU4. So it makes sense to have that weekly breakup of time as well.
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
Also, it's just cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Kazakhs being decentralized is kind of interesting. I'm curious
makes sense, though.
how it makes sense. I'm curious how they're going to keep from just getting eaten by their neighbors.
I mean, they're not, right? I mean, I think that's the point in
Yeah.
these decentralized states is that they're supposed to be there to
we know
be easier to mop up.
we know they can fight back, but you can also just colonize on top of them without asking. So, yeah.
I mean, that's what the Russians basically did during basically this was a prelude to the Great Game, really.
Yeah.
I wonder how the Great Game's going to work. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, well, they did confirm that until you get malaria medication, you can't just really go colonizing large parts of Africa.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so machine guns won't magically open up colonization anymore like they used to, but malaria medication will.
Yeah. I quite like that. That's pretty good.
And what someone has pointed, this is my favorite part of the map for Victoria 2. They actually have the Americas on the latitude that they're supposed to be on, rather than moving them up like 2,000 miles north like they do in all of the other.
I didn't notice that. Games. That's
yeah. So
that looks weird. My brain's been so poisoned by Paradox games, but that looks odd to me now.
I've used mods to put places back where they're supposed to be for so long that looking at vanilla EU4 at this point is like, what the fuck's going on here?
Everybody from South America that I've seen so far seems very upset with this border setup, but
yeah, Argentina is way too big. Too big.
Yeah, go make your voices known on the forums. I'm sure they'll fix it if they're completely wrong. This is still probably at least a year out from being released, so.
Yeah. I hope they've also removed Argentina's core on the Falklands.
Yeah,
we want this game to be historically accurate, don't we?
I wonder why you would want that. Yeah, Argentina
because historical accuracy is
it is historical. Yeah, to be fair.
Yeah,
would be fine with them having a permanent claim that can be removed through, a war or a diplomatic place. Like, remove your claim on my land, and then they get it back because they got another junta in. But having a core there is a political statement. And you probably should be on the side of the people who won because we're right.
And if Argentina's going to get a core, Spain should get a core. Neither of them make sense.
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense.
Well, they've also said that the way they're going to
sort of core province.
The way they're going to handle cores and claims, they said is going to be very different from how they have in the past. So we'll have to see how that even works. But also. Colombia being called New Grenada, is that accurate? Like, were they still a colony in 1836?
I'm honestly so woefully ignorant of Latin American time.
It seems weird to me.
Yeah.
But, South America, I'm sure they'll fix it. Go on the forums, tell them why it's wrong. Yep. We got plenty of time.
Literally, you could say anything about South America, and I will accept it as fact because I know fuck all about it.
So
all I know is about Bolivia got its coast stolen. Guano Wars. I know a little bit about the Guano Wars, but not much. That's it, really.
As far as the setup in the
Brazil didn't get rid of slavery for ages. People always skip over that. Like, I think Brazil started slavery after America got rid of slavery. It's a bit crazy.
Well, also the vast majority of slaves, maybe not the vast majority, the overwhelming plurality of slaves in the Atlantic slave trade actually went to Brazil. Way more African slaves went to Brazil than any other place in the world. It might have been like 40-something%. I'd have to look up the exact number.
Yeah.
But yeah, the U.S. and the Caribbean put together, I don't think even had as many slaves brought in as Brazil. So, set up in North America. Yucatan is independent, which they were at one point. I don't think they were in 1836, so that's a little odd to me. Yeah, you do have some tribes, some indigenous tribes that are decentralized. This is the Lakota and the Dakota up here in the Great Plains. One of these two they said is the Nez Perce. I'm not sure which one. I think it might be the one that's further west. The one by Texas is obviously the Comanche. And then I didn't see what this one in the Southwest is, but it's got to be either the Navajo or the Apache based on this era. And then Canada was actually broken up into 3 tags. Hudson's Bay Company is the big one. There's also one called Lower Canada in the basically the Maritimes. And there's also another one over here called Columbia District that is separate from the Hudson's Bay Company. I'm curious to see how, like Oregon, Washington, that boundary had not been decided yet in 1836. No. So I'm trying to decide how they're going to handle that, because like we didn't go to war over it really.
No, I imagine. They say they want to get rid of events, but maybe there'll be decisions to negotiate.
They didn't say they wanted to get rid of events. They just said they only want them to happen if the conditions are correct.
Yeah.
So
I hope there is some. I mean, I can't see a way of having a lot of things happen without having events.
right.
The more I think about it, it's like stuff like the Taiping Rebellion. Like, how are you going to model that without having an event? Because it was just such a bizarre lead
it'll
up.
probably happen. I mean, what are the causes of the Taiping Rebellion? If those causes are in the situation in the game, then they'll fire the event for Taiping Rebellion. They just won't do it if... I actually don't know what the Taiping Rebellion even is, but say they wanted tea. Say they had the tea, then they wouldn't be rebelling.
All right, let me just, I'll tell you what the Taiping Rebellion is. And so the Taiping Rebellion was when a fella said he was the brother of Jesus, decided that he was going to wage war against the Qing dynasty as part of sort of a semi-religious, Han nationalist, anti-imperial opium thing. I can't think of a way where you can model the brother of Jesus becoming
dynamically generate the brother of Jesus.
You have made your point, sir. I do concede.
Yeah, no, I'm sure there will be event chains, but like the way those event chains happen will be based on conditions. Yeah. Let's go over the Wikinomics panel really quick too, because we learned some.
He also hold on. One more fact about that. He also outlawed sex in Nanjing during the Heavenly Kingdom.
Well,
yeah, but at the same time, right? It was very harsh penalties for having sex too. But there was a lot of like miraculous births happening.
At the same
time.
Sure.
It was amazing,
it, mate?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
those miraculous conceptions happening.
Yeah, virgin births go up significantly anytime you outlaw sex.
That's it. Yeah.
So 1 billion people model at game start, 800 million is subsistence economy. So lots of room for growth. 750 states belonging to 140 markets. There's going to be about 50 building types and 50 pops. This is all stuff that, like, if you played Victoria 2, you probably understand how it works already. Pops consume goods to maintain their wealth. I'm still not 100% sure on the distinction between wealth and standard of living and how those two values interact. That's something where I just need to sit Martin down and be like, okay, break this down for me, because I still have not completely gotten my head around it yet. I know they're related. I don't exactly understand how they're related.
Yeah, I haven't really grasped. So Pops have a bank account, right?
Yeah.
Is that
they did in Victoria 2. I don't know if they will in Victoria 3, or if excess money just turns into this abstract wealth value.
We've been told that they each have wages.
They do have wages. What I don't know is, when they have their needs met, does the extra money just poof and turn into wealth value, or does it go into a bank somewhere? I know there's some issues with Victoria 2 where like all of the world's economy would end up in banks, which historically didn't happen till much, much later. I don't know how that's gonna work. Maybe we'll have to wait for a dev diary, or maybe I can
pops
ambush.
We'll be like, you know what? I've got a little bit of extra wealth. I'm gonna buy myself some IKEA furniture.
Yeah.
And some pops are gonna be putting it at the end of the bed and banking it, right? And some pops are gonna do the enlightened play and buy themselves a case of tea.
Yeah. Infrastructure. We showed this slide earlier. So rivers, ports, railways. If you don't have infrastructure, people in that area can't get goods from your market, and also they can't sell their goods on your market efficiently. I think they still can, based on a percentage modifier, like it increases the cost. So like, nobody's going to buy shit from California if it's available much cheaper in New York, because the infrastructure in California is terrible. So yeah, they'll be at an economic disadvantage. Prices are set per state based on their market access. Underproduced goods are expensive and make you reliant on imports, but overproduced goods are cheap to buy and unprofitable to make. So have to find more markets for them. Needs can be fulfilled by multiple different goods. Like they show basic food. You can use grain, fish, meat, fruit, or groceries. which I assume is probably going to be something where you have a building that takes grain, fish, meat, fruit, and converts it into groceries,
Yeah.
like a supermarket or something like that.
Considering it's like
Yeah.
each of those have, even if they're more like they've got more expensive pound values there, they've got like silver coins, whereas next to grocery store is gold coins.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's going on there.
Well, and like part of the reason that like a lot of the nations that did really well in this era did well is because the population had access to a balanced diet, and I kind of see that as being maybe what like if you have access to this groceries good, that increases your fertility and decreases your mortality rate or whatever, because
You just need to build yourself some supermarket factories.
if everybody is just eating rice and fish all day every day, you're not going to have as good of a general public health level as if you have a very well balanced diet of lots of different
I'm interested to see how this works in reality, because obviously fish, meats, there's no refrigeration or anything. I don't know. It's be interesting to find out this so diverse. So both Manju and Vicky, it worked. So, you basically import fruits, which didn't happen obviously in the Victorian era, but it kind of works for the gameplay reasons.
We do
the
see
tier 10 hype here is if pops that only have access to grain and fruit and no access to fish or meat, if their militancy goes up, because vegans are very aggressive people.
Also, tier 12 is going to be if you don't have access to quality proteins, your 3D models, your pops should actually be shorter. Yeah, because that's part of why Europeans and Americans got so tall during this time period, is lots of meat and dairy in their diet.
Dynamic heights.
Yeah,
yes, that'd be very good.
Yeah. Population growth from increasing standards of living. You can get loyalists and radicals, which basically, if they belong to an interest group, loyalists increase their satisfaction with the government, radicals lower it.
Yep.
They also generate turmoil in the states where they live, which can lead to uprisings and stuff, which you don't want.
Yep.
Yeah, I was trying to... Oh, yeah, Dixie culture, which was in Victoria too. They basically split the U.S. into Yankee, which was the northern U.S., and Dixie, which is the southern U.S. So,
yeah.
Assuming that that's not just an import from Victoria 2 that's going to get changed later, it looks like they are going to have two separate white American cultures.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The funny thing is, I've had this happen a few times. In England, we kind of just refer to all Americans, regardless of North or South. I don't give a shit about that, really. We just refer to you all as Yanks. And I called someone a Yank before. It wasn't even like trying to insult him. It was just purely a playful Yanks, whatever. He got super mad at me.
If you call someone from the South,
the North are the Yanks. I'm like, I don't care.
It's like, what are you going to call you, dicks?
Bunch of dicks.
But no, you don't want.
This is honestly the first time I've ever heard the term Dixie. Probably.
You don't want to call someone from the South, especially the Deep South. You don't want to call him a Yankee.
Yeah.
Well, he's from Texas.
Yeah, my nan ran into that problem in Georgia when she went to see some relatives I got over there. So.
So I just called him Yankee Doodle Dee and left it at that. He didn't like that either.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that necessarily. Like, I feel like economic interest had more to do than culture with the causes of the Civil War, but I don't know. It kind of makes sense.
Well, you're all Texans to me. I wonder if Texans.
Yeah, we're all just cowboys.
It's coast to coast cowboys.
Texan was a separate culture in Victoria too, so I'm hoping it will be in Victoria 3 as well.
I just got to point out, Dev Diary McDev Diary Face. You say you're from the Northeast. You spelled Middlesbrough wrong. You've got one extra O in there. It's bruh, not borough, mate. It's only borough if you drop all the other letters and it's literally B-O-R-O. And there's someone from Middlesbrough. I find that highly offensive. I don't care. But I'm just saying I find it highly offensive.
Yeah, I can't possibly say that. It's from somebody in Wales. Nobody knows how to spell any of the fucking names around here. So not even people from around here. I spelled my hometown name wrong multiple times. So
I mean, you're from Wales. I mean, there's not enough L's on your
there's not
keyboard
enough
to...
W's, double L's. Yeah, it's just a mess.
This I found really interesting. So privately owned buildings have full control over their wages and try to maximize their profits. They also said that like laborers in a state, if they work at the logging camp and there's like, I don't know, a canned food factory that is paying more, they will actually move to the factory that's paying more.
It's really cool.
So I'm really curious what the logic behind how these factories set their wages is going to be, and how you're going to have an ability to affect that.
Well, I imagine if you're privately owned, you got sort of more laissez-faire economy. You just don't,
right?
Right. I mean,
in terms of like
problems, but have big
it's a race
bonuses.
to the bottom when it comes to the wages, though. If it's privately owned with absolutely no government involvement whatsoever, unless you've got some powerful unions. Everyone's going to be offering like a cent an hour, and you're going to lap it up because it's the only fucking job you can get.
Well, and I'm curious if there's like a point at which they won't go any lower. Like laborers, just like they're not even getting their basic needs met, so they're just not even going to work there, even if it's the only job that's available. I know
I imagine so.
Some people on Reddit have been speculating about strikes, which should absolutely be a thing.
Oh yeah.
Like workers should be able to go on strike, demand better wages. So
I imagine this will just be sort of like a dynamic thing. That would be really cool because trade unions is an interest group.
Right.
Maybe more power trade union has, some more wages go up.
And even this era saw the supply and demand also affects labor. So like if I encourage, I'm making up a mechanic here, but if I have a way to encourage migration to like a specific state where I'm building up like a steel industry or something, will that decrease the labor cost because there's more people competing for jobs? I hope that's how it works, because that would
make sense, right?
Speaking of that, you said you invented a mechanic there, but that is a mechanic in Vicky 2.
It is
the focusy, not tree. It's a focus system where you can say, "Oh, I want this state to focus on doing a thing."
Right.
I hope that doesn't make a return, because oh my god, I fucking hate it. It is not fun to be like, oh, I've finally got my intellectuals up
number
to 2%.
of intellectuals.
Oh yeah, no, that needs to go away. That needs to go away.
2%.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Got enough? Do we have enough clerks? No, we got to hit our specific number of clerks that we're supposed to have.
4%.
Yeah.
I hate it. It's so trash.
I'm okay with focuses coming back. I don't want it to be something where I'm micromanaging the specific ratio of jobs. I don't I'd be okay with a focus if it's like, all right, I'm gonna spend some of my authority, which is one of the capacity types you have, to encourage migration into this specific state because I'm building up an industry here. Is that something the U.S. actually did? Like, we're going to incentivize you to move out to Oregon.
Imagine instead of I'm going to spend authority to encourage that, maybe you could encourage that instead by giving tax breaks to
or subsidies,
the factories that are there instead, or subsidies or something like that.
That
would be a more interesting and more fitting way than I'll spend some magic doodads to encourage this.
Well, they even
I should do something tangible.
Government subsidies, guarantee a good wage to keep production high.
I don't think we're going to do it, but I do hope that they move away from basically having an intellectual class that does your research, which explicitly did not happen in the Victorian era, right? It was not intellect. Well, actually, maybe from a cultural side of things, but when you're talking about the invention of boilers and stuff, it wasn't some like highfalutin lecturer in Oxford coming up with a steam boiler. It was like some, a guy who wanted to pump stuff out of his mine. Engineers, industrialists, lots of working class artisans. That's where all the innovation of the time period came from.
The way it was described to me is that academics give you more points that you can directly invest into a specific technology that you want. And then literacy increases tech spread, which is just passive generation of
Passive game.
technology and ideas. What I don't know is like if I'm the first one to invent, nitroglycerin, do I have to directly invent that using my innovation points, or else it's just never going to happen? Like some government has to invent it first, or it's just never going to happen? Or is there a way for those inventions to pop up naturally over time? That I don't know. Yeah.
I imagine it's just got to work around the intellectuals. I imagine because it's easier for game design. Although it's ahistorical, but it would make sense from a gameplay point of view.
Yeah.
But for some reason, Oxford University academic is inventing the high pressure steam engine just randomly.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense, but I think it probably works for a gameplay point of view.
Now that I've finished working on nitroglycerin, I'm going to invent anarchy.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, those sort of cultural things did make sense because it was the intellectual class that came up with, the ideas of liberty. Marx was an intellectual class. Engels was a capitalist, basically. Intellectual capitalist, but that makes sense. But
always a good laugh when people say that Marxism is trying to destroy Western civilization when it's like directly a product of Western civilization.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Marxism is firmly rooted in the Western intellectual tradition. It's like, but
it is, of course.
Yeah,
but like, so there's the more practical stuff. Not to say that like cultural stuff is not practical in a way, but like, spinning jennies and steam engines and medium gauge railroads. You couldn't, for example, say that Brunel was like an intellectual. He was an engineer. He was very much a very hardworking, hands-on engineer.
I hope they keep some of the RNG in terms of like inventions can pop up naturally without the government intervening.
I like that about Vicky too.
Yeah,
that was I enjoyed very much. Like, you've got your state that is looking after inventing different methods of market distribution and stuff, and then through that, by the way, we've just invented this invention-y thing. Market distribution is a really terrible example. I should be like medicine.
Yeah,
the government has accepted that medicine is cool. And because of that, we now some intellectual fella doctor person has invented a vaccine for fucking malaria. It's great.
Yeah.
A famous malaria vaccine.
And like, there's things that it makes sense to be government.
Like, we're just hitting it for us.
Doodly bopper do that.
Yeah.
There's things that it makes sense to be government.
Gin and tonic, legit was what they because it's oh gosh. I'm a biochemist. I've forgotten the name of it. Goddamn substance that you have in tonic.
Quinine.
But gin and tonic, quinine.
Yeah.
But legit, gin and tonic was what they used to fight malaria, which is very good.
Yeah, I like there are things that it makes sense to be directly government-led research. Like there's some farmer who's like tired of getting shot at. Is not going to invent like the Mark V tank just like to better his own life. Like that's something that the government would have to come up with. But
I bet if it's Mark I tank to plow my fields a little bit better.
They come and find.
What is it? What is
and find him, and it's like
persevering.
Like the government shows up at his farm and it's like, "We need your help. We need your tractors to win World War I."
Help us, Mr. Stark.
These were not made as machines of war. I will not see them corrupted to do your killing.
I invented these tractors for peace, not for war.
I invented these armored tracked vehicles with machine guns, pinions on the side.
What if we put a gun on it?
Yeah. And you're not taking my pigeons either.
We'll take a thing. We'll put a gun
the
on
only
it.
family I have.
Love it.
Is there any more wishes you two want from Vicky that you think that might not be in the game, but aspirationally, say we're on tier 5 of our expectations,
my
tier 10.
Face.
Your face. Apart from your face, like gameplay mechanics.
It's hard for me to think about it because like this is like so much better than like the best Victoria 3 I would have imagined.
Yeah.
Like, I was so afraid they were going to try to, like, dumb it down, and the fact that they've actually made it deeper is, a surprise to be sure, but a welcome one.
Yeah. You know what I find awkward
What?
is that I really like sliders.
Hmm.
And this
I
slide that you've
don't
got
like
open now about your
sliders.
taxes and
I'm
stuff.
so glad sliders
I'm-
are dead. Fuck sliders.
I know I
Sliders are the
love
worst.
sliders, but unironically, I think that this is actually a bit more historical.
Yeah.
Because you imagine with the sliders, you're trying to tweak the exact percentage point number that you like. Imagine how that would play out in real life.
Yeah.
You've got one of your governors or your prime minister or whatever come into parliament every day with I think we should increase the taxes by 0.5%. Nope,
Yeah,
too
yeah.
much. Go back down 0.5%. Well, this is a new bill. We're raising the military spending by 33.2% and then down again. Yeah, no, these are unironically probably closer to reality.
Yeah. Yeah, so
And
you
I
got
hate
it.
that because I like sliders.
You got income taxes, which based on your laws, they can give you more taxes for the poor. You can make them even across the board, or you can make more taxes for the rich. Poll tax, from what I understand, is just like a per capita tax.
Yeah, yeah.
It's you dare live in my country?
Yeah.
Give me money.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
And then,
like,
consumption taxes.
during this era, was there much in the way of poll tax? I mean, like,
I mean,
in
the
many
U.S.
states?
the U.S. never had them, as far as I
No.
know. So I don't know.
Britain didn't have them until like mid last century, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you can set consumption
1980s.
taxes on specific goods, dividends taxes on dividends from buildings that are owned by pops.
So
Yeah.
those consumption taxes, do you think you're only gonna ever be able to put consumption taxes on 3 different goods?
No, I'd imagine once you fill that slot, you'll get another plus sign next to it.
I like that. I like that. That makes more sense to me.
Yep. So
Tariffs, I'm wondering too. Like tariffs.
there's got to be. They haven't talked about
Oh, well,
it.
this is taxes, and I think tariffs are more related to trade, right?
No, I mean
Yeah,
there have been people that have been panicking over tariffs, and it's like there's gonna be tariffs. You can't have the Victorian era without tariffs.
Yeah, of
Like,
course. Yeah.
Come
yeah.
on. They
I mean,
did.
the whole free trade versus mercantilism thing
Right.
was basically the politics of the day, right? I
Right.
mean, like,
I mean, the other half of the economy tab still needs to be filled out
Yeah.
with your military spending, your factory spending, your education spending, your administration spending, and your tariffs.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's totally gonna be there.
Yeah. They have also talked about minting is going to be a thing. So it'll be possible for some countries to replace taxes with minting, although historically that leads to inflation, and I'll be curious to see how they handle that.
yeah,
But, yeah. What are your wishes, Father Loris? What do you want to see?
I was-
this-
17 types of coal.
Yeah.
well, yeah,
and a
obviously.
house in Tibet for him to retire to.
Beyond like the silly things like coal differences and all that, I would like to see some of the more prestige expeditions. I would like to see
Yeah.
stuff sources of the Nile. I would especially love to see the Arctic expeditions, which is one of my favorite
Yes.
little
Yes.
pet things.
They did.
I've
They
got,
did say
like
on
$50
Reddit.
about that.
They did say on Reddit there is going to be an expedition to find the source of the Nile, and that will not be the only expedition.
Fantastic.
So,
Well,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, this is the
Yeah.
great age of Arctic exploration,
yeah.
right? And so I really would
Roald
like to see that.
Amundsen, my boy. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Yeah. I want the Fran expedition, right? I want to have detailed exploration because
Yeah.
nobody knows about the Fran expedition. I love it. It's when they got a boat and decided that they were gonna freeze the boat into the Arctic.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And then the idea was that the Arctic drift would they would sit in their boat, have a jolly old time staying in the boat, living on canned baked beans and all that for like 4 years, and just leisurely drift into
Yeah.
the North Pole and be the first to the North Pole. Turns out, the currents weren't as precise as they thought it would be, and it actually just loops around, and this poor boat was just like drifting about in the North Pole. So the guy who was like head of the expedition decided, fuck it, I'm walking to the North Pole. He didn't make it to the North Pole. He walked back, couldn't find his boat, got stranded in the Arctic, lived on whales and blubber for like a few years before miraculously being discovered by a group of people that he had actually rejected from being on the Fran expedition.
Yeah.
He went north and discovered this
fucking
captain.
story.
It's great.
This is
lovely.
awkward. Yeah.
What
Yeah,
I want
there's,
to
like-
do is be
yeah.
able to find the body of Tutankhamun,
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
exhume him, and turn him into baby powder.
yeah.
See, I want like
Paint.
an RNG chance that you actually can find the Northwest Passage. Like maybe maybe there is one. There wasn't one in our timeline, but maybe Franklin just like gets out to Alaska and he's like, "Yep, found it. It's right here."
Well, I think the guy that like Franklin is an awful guy in general.
he was.
He's an
He
idiot.
was not a good. He was not a good person.
John Ray, however, one of my all-time favorite hero people. Yeah, go read about John Ray. He's very interesting. He's sadly like maligned because he was a person who basically discovered that Franklin had been eating each other, and he sent back his telegram saying, "Oh, by the way, I found out that Franklin had unfortunately resorted to cannibalism." And the Admiralty was like, "An admiral of the Royal Navy resorting to cannibalism? This man's a drunken Scot. We can't let him get away with this." So John Ray
You're no
basically
longer British, no, you're Scottish. Times
Well-
never change.
yeah. He was actually from Orkney, and a surprising amount of like people who went to work for the Hudson Bay Company and Arctic explorers in general were from Orkney. There was a saying actually in the Hudson Bay Company amongst Scottish Orkney Islanders that they went to like northern Canada for the good weather. That was a joke.
I was gonna
Because it was
say,
nicer than
if
fucking
you're from
Orkney.
Orkney, Canada probably seems lovely.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
expeditions. I would like to see going back to Tibet. The Tibetan expedition is very interesting.
Right.
Also.
Yeah. Was
Um,
that within
It would have been towards the end of it, right?
this time frame? Yeah, I think it was the
Yeah.
1930s, wasn't it?
The Russians, no, 1920s, wasn't it?
Oh,
1920s.
okay.
The Russians
You
and the
probably
British
know
were.
better more than I did. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the Nazis came along way after the Russians and the British because the Russians and the British wanted basically Tibet to be on their sides during the
Yeah.
Great Game, basically.
Yeah.
Expeditions into Afghanistan. Famously, the British went into Afghanistan, reinstalled a Shah, and then basically found themselves. Basically, they marched into Kabul, right? Is that the capital? Can't remember. I said,
Afghanistan,
right,
yeah.
the Shah
Yep,
is
yeah.
back, and he's a British ally. And then it was like, fuck, we're stuck in Afghanistan now. And they had to like basically battle their way out, and it was a terrible, terrible time for everyone involved. And then after they gotten out, the Afghans had just got rid of the guy anyway. So like, yeah,
Yeah. Well,
Stuff
that's
like
Party people.
that's
yeah, graveyard of empires for a reason, right?
that's some of what we've learned about Victoria 3. We're going to be getting, seems like Dev Diaries every week now, so we'll be talking more about Victoria 3 every week. As well as catching up on the non-PDXCon news from the last week that we haven't covered, like Choo Choo Trains and Hearts of Iron.
Choo Choo Trains, that's the van, yeah, which is a big standout for me.
Yeah, so we ran a little long here, but we did have a lot to talk about. So, yeah. Loris, you been up to anything interesting lately? Other than PDXCon?
Just a bit of drawing, yeah, PDXCon,
Yeah,
yeah, that's about it really.
yeah.
Making fancy stuff.
Well, Lambert,
That's about
what is going on your end these days?
I
Where can people
have
find-
been doing a bit of Vicky 2, trying to learn the game before Vicky 3 comes out.
Uh-huh.
Got a video on the Wikinomics panel coming out hopefully tomorrow. I found it quite difficult to write that one, but that should be coming out soon. And still got Imperator going on, some multiplayer stuff, and Dev Diaries for the Imperator Invictus mod.
Nice.
But yeah, a lot of Vicky 2. Going to be playing a lot of Vicky 2.
Cool. And where can people find you?
Oh yeah, the Lord Lambert
Whoosh, there
on
we go.
YouTube
How about
and
that?
Lord Lambert _ on Twitch and socials are
Yeah. Yeah.
those places.
Yeah, I'm Lord Sworn Order on Twitch and YouTube, and I'm gonna be getting back to my normal streaming schedule hopefully this week. So I've sort of had time to recover from PDXCon. Doing still AC Valhalla and Crusader Kings 3 for the most part, but I might tip back into some Victoria. I feel like I have like the paradox, but on a much grander scale right now, where I'm so excited about Victoria 3
this is the first time I've not felt it.
that I don't know if I could go back to Victoria 2 at this point, because I'm just be like, oh, this is bullshit. They don't even have real communism.
When CK3 was announced, I dropped CK2 like a rock. Even the the King's Journey, the Monarch's Journey, or whatever it was called, wasn't enough to get me to pick up CK2 again.
Yeah.
But Vicky 3's been announced, and I have been like, oh yeah, I'm playing Vicky 2 a hell of a lot. On Friday, I'm going to start a new multiplayer game. I've been playing a bunch of single player. I've been practicing and learning how to play. I've played more Vicky in the past. When was Vicky 3 announced? Than I have like at all.
Days ago, yeah.
Oh wow. Well, yeah. If you haven't played it yet, or if you haven't played it much,
I've played it very little. Like under 100 hours.
Yeah, it's definitely
it's
definitely worth checking out if you are new to Victoria 2, for sure.
Yeah, it's a very, very good game. But play with HFM.
Yeah,
play with HPM.
Historical flavor mod, historical project
and also
mod.
Mishmash's visuals.
Yeah,
makes the map look pretty.
Yeah.
It's a very, very good game.
I saw somebody on Reddit described it perfectly, and they said Victoria 2 is my favorite game that is just like fundamentally broken in a million different ways. It's like, yeah, that's a great.
Yeah, but you rationalize it. You know, the economy collapses, and you go, oh well, it's just the crisis of capitalism or whatever. You know, that's all it is.
The economy collapsing in the 1930s, kind of. Yeah, that checks out.
Makes sense. Sure, it's bad for gameplay, but you know, it feels right somehow. The economy just falls apart.
Sphered China, and then China bought up all the goods in the world, and there's nothing left for everyone else, and everyone dies. It happens.
Oh, I've been recommended to not sphere the chain under any circumstances.
I'm pretty sure they hard blocked it in the last patch that Wiz put out before he moved on to Victoria 3. I think they hard blocked the ability to sphere China.
I think in HFM you do the same too. Yeah. But however, you can sphere the warlords that spawn in the warlord period. Which is cool. That's another wish.
You can sphere Manchuria, which has quite a few nice RGOs.
Yeah. Definitely want to do that in Japan, right? Makes sense.
All right. Well, we'll be back same time next week with a bunch more Grand Strategy news. Follow us, subscribe to us, give us reviews and stars on your favorite podcast app. And thanks for tuning in.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.